So I've been wanting to talk about this particular topic for a bit now, as I tend to be quite the avid consumer of horror films in general. But lately, I just haven't been really interested in the horror sphere the way that I used to be. And that's mainly because I feel like a lot of the horror movies that have been coming out of 2021, and honestly since like 2018, haven't really been up to par to what I feel like they used to be back in the days. Now, I don't know if this is just me and my wishful thinking, or just maybe me misremembering a lot of these films, but a lot of the films that I recall used to be a lot better in many more ways than the stuff that I feel like it's coming out today. The biggest issue, quite frankly, that I have with most horror films nowadays is it's just a lack of originality. It's just not creative enough anymore. I don't get surprised, I don't get entertained, I don't even get amused. And that's saying a lot, because I have a really easy sense of humor. Real childish too, but they don't really cut it for me anymore. I haven't really enjoyed any horror films of late. They all follow the same theme, the same pattern. They all feel overdone. There's like 75 movies that practically have the same script. They practically all follow the exact same storyline. And it seems like even when I tend to finally find something that's enjoyable, they still try to appeal to the masses by including garbage, if I'm being honest, into the movie as almost like a last-ditch effort to grab the people that they think is the everyday consumer when the everyday consumer enjoys. But the everyday consumer, at least I would like to think and believe, does not actually enjoy jump scares and really formulaic movies and movies that are about the same three topics every other day. But then again, I don't know, because a lot of people like to watch mystery boxes, unboxings on YouTube, so maybe the masses really do like formulaic and obvious stuff. So to me, I feel like the structure of a movie really makes or breaks the movie. Most of the time, if the structure is kind of lackluster or boring, then the movie probably won't be very good. It's kind of like the meat and potatoes of a movie, at least I feel. And so today, it feels like a lot of the movies that I've been seeing, the structure has been kind of lackluster, and they've been relying on really cliches and really just basic kind of stereotypes of horror films to kind of carry a movie, and a jump scare and a stereotype just cannot carry a movie for you. And quite frankly, I feel like it does the opposite. It kind of just ruins the movie instead of really add anything to it. Many of the current day horror films really harbor unoriginal content and really don't bring anything new to the table. Stuff that I've been seeing throughout the years of consuming so many horror films are just being recycled and over, and they're being modernized. I've been seeing remakes of classic horror films as well, but the remakes are never as good as the originals. And now, whether that is because of boring and maybe lazy scripts and writing, or maybe just because maybe the risks that they're taking and with the changes are a little too big, not quite sure, but all I know is that it really isn't paying off in the end. At least, not in terms of good quality, but I'm sure it's paying the pockets of the people that, can make these movies. So I've been finding myself honestly just watching indie films a lot and rewatching classic horror films. I've been subscribing to like a bunch of the older stuff that I used to watch when I was much younger, and just rewatching those, even though I've seen, and I'm not the type to want to rewatch a horror movie like 7-6 times. I find rewatching content in general kind of boring. If I've already watched something, I don't really revisit it too much, unless it's like a longer period of time has passed. But considering the fact that all of these horror movies lately have been feeling so lackluster and boring, I've had to kind of go back to rewatching what I used to watch when I was much younger. And of course, now those classics never disappoint me, but eventually even that gets old. I mean, I can only rewatch the same horror movie so many times before I get a little tired of it myself. I have to bring this up because I'm still not over it. Sinister 2, disgusting. You know how you ruined the Sinister movie? You added the jump scare at the end, Mary. Who needed that jump scare? The movie was amazing. The movie was fantastic. Who told you to add no jump scares at the end? Are you out of your goddamn mind? Absolutely not. Not in my neighborhood. Sinister was one of those movies that I actually genuinely enjoyed, and it's rare for me to say that movies that have come in recent times, though I guess Sinister was like in 2012, which has been a long time when I think about it now, since we're in 2021, which I don't like to think about because I'm old. But I genuinely really enjoyed Sinister. I thought it was a really good movie. And it felt so necessary how I have a hair in my mouth. And it felt so unnecessary how by the end of the movie, such a good movie would get ruined by the stupid jump scare that honestly did not add anything. The whole Bagul showing at the end just to scare you last minute. We didn't need that. It felt lazy, it felt stupid. It honestly took away from the actual movie, if you ask me. I personally really enjoyed the movie prior to that moment. That deducted like 3 points off of the movie because I was like, I don't need all that. To be honest, I was happy with what you already offered me. It was more than enough. I still want to have hope for the sphere in general. And I'd like to think that some of the horror films that are going to come out might be better, but it's not looking great. I mean, The Conjuring 3, the original true crime case of The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It, was far more interesting to me, at least, than the story, the movie that they've made of it. And of course, they embellished a lot of it because, you know, Hollywood cinema. But I don't know how many Conjuring movies you guys can really muster before they become boring. I mean, they've been boring to me. The Conjuring 1 was fine. It wasn't a bad movie, in my opinion. I wasn't particularly offended by it. But The Conjuring 2 wasn't really amazing at that point, and 3 is honestly not really worth watching if you ask me. And of course, I made a video on this film as well, but there's Hereditary, which was a more modern day movie that a lot of people didn't enjoy. And I genuinely think the reason why a lot of people did not like Hereditary in the way that I personally liked it is because people have gotten so used to these fast-paced and really cliche, really jump-scary kind of films that, like, I feel like when you take a movie that takes a little bit more of time to really get to the punch and a little bit more of subtleties, and it really requires a little bit more of introspection. Because honestly, when you watch Hereditary after the second and third and fourth time sometimes, is when you really start to really pick everything up and you're like, oh, I understand what's really happening here at this point. And that's really what makes the movie so interesting to me, at least. It's the little subtleties and the way that the script was approached and the way that the concept of the movie, the material was approached, really, that to me made Hereditary such a decent, really good movie. But I know that, like, around the horror groups and horror spheres that I've encountered, it's not super popular. A lot of people find it boring because it takes too long to really get to the action. But then I look at the recommendations for movies that they enjoy, and a lot of the movies that they enjoy, I'm like, these movies are garbage. Like, no disrespect, but some of these movies are trash. A lot, like, I've heard people complain about Hereditary, but then they recommend, like, Insidious, and I'm like, Insidious is not a good movie. At least to me, Insidious was not a good movie. Insidious gets you somewhere. Insidious does some part of the job, maybe, but it doesn't make you climax. Insidious really, like, it doesn't really do it for me. It doesn't make me want to revisit the movie. It was fine, I guess. Like, it came out when I was in high school, and I guess it was fine for its time, maybe? Actually, no, it wasn't fine for its time, because now that I recall, I think Sinister came out the same year, if not the next one. So, it was not fine for its time. Not to say that you're not allowed to enjoy Insidious. If you like Insidious, not my business. But, at least to me, especially with, like, the more recent ones, I mean, like, Insidious 2, and I think there's a 3, maybe a 4, don't recall, because I haven't been keeping up with Insidious. They all just feel like cash grabs. They're not very good. Again, the first one was, like, the only really decent one, in my opinion. The other ones were just kind of, like, lackluster, bad. But yeah, that's kind of, like, my video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's not something that I was really going to go super crazy into editing. Actually, I probably did go crazy with the editing because it's me. But I just wanted to make it more of a quick little rant. I hope you guys still enjoyed it. But yeah, until then, I'll be seeing you guys in the next one.